They became famous all over the world with Teen Spirit, went on tour with Britney Spears, and then nothing. 20 years later, the four Swedes talk about what really happened. Keep watching this video to find out who was ABBA cover band A-Teens. How did A-Teens get their name? Britney Spears went to Stockholm in 1998 to record songs for her first album, Baby One More Time. She worked with Max Martin and Rami Jakob, among others, to make the songs. At the time, she was one of many stars who went to the Swedish city to take advantage of its growing pop scene. A few miles away at a dance school, a group of record label executives got together to try out 100 teenagers for a project they called the ABBA Teens, which was a tribute to Sweden's most famous band. That year, ABBA had been together for 25 years, but they hadn't put out any new music in almost 20 years. ABBA was loved by an older generation of Swedes, and they were famous all over the world for their crazy costumes and huge hits like Dancing Queen and Waterloo. Their songs hadn't yet been turned into a long-running Broadway musical, which later inspired a blockbuster movie franchise starring Meryl Streep. What was the point of starting A-Teens? For lack of a better word, ABBA wasn't cool, but the A-Teens were meant to change that by introducing the group's hits to a new group of music fans. Preteens who knew a lot about pop music and were figuring out what they liked as they became old enough to spend money. After they changed their name, the four chosen singers became the A-Teens. Their first album, The ABBA Generation, went to the top of the Swedish charts and sold more than 2 million copies around the world. But their next album, Teen Spirit, which was made up of all original songs, broke the group outside of Sweden. Bouncing off the ceiling upside down, broke into the Billboard Hot 100 and became their biggest hit to date. This turned the A-Teens from opening acts to headliners. They went all over the world. They became regulars on Radio Disney and played concerts all over the United States with popular acts from the early 2000s like the Baha Men and Aaron Carter. Teen Spirit got number 50 on the US chart, but young people all over the world loved and paid attention to it. Did the A-Teens break up? At first glance, everything was going well for the four of them, but after their third studio album, Pop Till You Drop, came out, they quietly broke up without much fuss. In 2004, a greatest hits album was given to fans, and then, nothing. It wasn't until 2006 that a member of the A-Teens said out loud that the group was no longer together. It took even longer for the group to get back together as friends, ready to talk about the 6 years that changed their lives forever. In recent years, ABBA has become popular again, thanks in large part to the success of the star-studded Mamma Mia movies. However, the A-Teens' influence is still felt today, as they gave producers and songwriters their first chance to work with big names like Avicii, Sarah Larsson, and Lady Gaga. 20 years after the release of Teen Spirit, the album that solidified the group's legacy, MTV News zoomed with each member of the group, as well as the creative team that helped turn them into global superstars. Members of ABBA didn't want to say anything. This is an oral history of the A-Teens, a cover band made up of teenagers that weren't supposed to last, but ended up being one of the most popular and successful groups of the pop's prefab era. In 1988, as the 25th anniversary of ABBA's official start at the 1974 Eurovision Song Contest drew near, Stockholm Records started talking about how to celebrate, while giving the Swedish group's old music a new lease on life. Pop Till You Drop was the third album by the A-Teens. It came out in the US in 2002. The next year, they put out an album called New Arrival for the international market. It had 6 pop songs that they had already released, and it would be their last studio album. During that time, they traveled around the world. Where are the members of A-Teens now? After they broke up, all 4 members eventually went back to making music, but only one of them is still in the business now. The band's recent comeback record didn't do well, and they changed their lineup. 2 new singers came and went like castaways from Destiny's Child. That doesn't mean that there's no room for amped-up Ace of Base sounds in pop music today. Katy Perry, Robin, and Tegan and Sarah have all said that Ace of Base influenced their most recent albums, and Lady Gaga's Alejandro sounds a lot like the band's Don't Turn Around. At least they changed the works that influenced them in their own way. The best thing about this kind of cover is how different it is from the original. This gives young listeners a chance to start getting into ABBA, which could lead them to becoming fans themselves one day. Are they going to get back together for a reunion? Even though they've never gotten back together as A-Teens, all 4 members have stayed in touch. They meet at important life events for dinner in Stockholm when their schedules work out. Cernholz says that she still has A-Teens dolls and ABBA Teens t-shirts. Lindvald confirmed that everyone has said, "Let's get together twice a year." That, however, never happened. But they still talk to each other in a group chat on WhatsApp and make plans often. But since everyone except Lindvald has kids, it gets hard to carry out these plans. Johansson has always said that being best friends is the key to staying in a band for a long time. You don't always have to be best friends, but you do have to get along and help each other out. He says that because the 4 people he sees today are good people and make him feel proud.